Hey, how's it going? Just here answering your problem for this investment here. I thought I'd do the video because I think this is the easiest way to see the layout for this picture. All right. And if we look at the first step here, the first thing we want to do is get our equations in order. So for this particular problem, there's actually three equations. All right. So I've labeled each of my variables X, Y, Z. Ideally, I'd like to use a T or a C, but since two of them were T's, that didn't make a whole lot of sense. We just did X, Y, Z. All right. So as you can see in the first equation, all three of them total 8,000. All right. And then in the second equation, since this is simple interest, it makes things so much easier, right? So what you're doing is if you're taking 3% of your T-bills amount, that'll be 0.03 times X, right? Just like you're taking 2% of Y, 5% of Z, which is your corporate bonds. You add up all of those amounts, that'll total $330 because that's the simple interest you're trying to earn in aggregate. And then the third equation is when you said she wants her investment in T-bills to be 3,000 less than corporate bonds. So what I usually do when I see stuff like that is write out the equation exactly the way I'm reading it. So investment is, so X equals 3,000 less than. So that'd be a subtraction of 3,000 from Z. Then if we go to the second equation, all right, I'm using substitution. So instead of putting in X, I'm putting in Z minus 3,000, all right? And then by doing this, I'm able to condense the equation and eventually solve for Y. By solving for Y, I can substitute that equation into the third equation, which is the one we haven't used yet. So as you go to number 3 here, you'll see that I've used substitution for the X and substitution for the Y. Now I have a common variable. I have Z for everything. Now, since it's one variable equation, now you can solve for Z. So I did all the math here. Z ended up being 5,000. Thank goodness it's a nice round whole number. And then now that I know what Z is, I can go back in and plug that in because remember, X is Z minus 3,000. So if we go to step 4 here, 5,000 minus 3,000 is 2,000. It gives me our X, all right? And then now that we know X and now that we know Z, we can plug all three of those in and put in the first equation, X plus Y plus Z equals 8,000. So I plug in 2,000 for X, 5,000 for Z. I can now solve for Y, which is 1,000. So as you can see, here's the final answer, 2,000, 1,000, 5,000. And just to double check, I make mistakes like everybody else. Just to double check that this works out, I plug these answers into all three equations, and you'll see it works out, right? If you add them up, the total is 8,000. Is the amount in T-bills 3,000 less than corporate bonds? Sure is. And then I plugged in for the third equation using the decimals, and it did equal 330. So I hope that was helpful.